Soul Streaming Entry 23, The Wound of Receiving. A living, breathing audio and written experience by Sim. The more I continue evolving, the more I keep realizing healing is always happening. But depending on where you are with yourself, your awareness, your nervous system, and your journey, that will determine how much time and energy you actually need to allocate toward it. And the best way I can explain it is through work, especially for people still operating inside the traditional 9 to 5 structure. When you first start healing, it's almost like working a full time job. You need the structure, you need the consistency, you need to clock in and out intentionally because you're still building trust with yourself. You're still proving to yourself that you're going to show up, that you're going to face things instead of run from them, that you're going to stay committed even when it's uncomfortable. Then eventually, you move into the salary stage. Now you've built enough trust with yourself that healing isn't something you have to force as hard anymore. It becomes integrated into who you are. You still show up for yourself, but now it's coming from investment instead of survival. You've built enough awareness to recognize when something needs your attention without needing life to completely fall apart first. Then comes the part time stage. A lot of your old beliefs have already been rewritten by then. Your baseline has changed. You're living differently now. So healing no longer consumes every waking second of your existence. You still intentionally clock in, but now it's more about maintenance, awareness, and continuing to strengthen the new reality you've already built for yourself. You're no longer constantly trying to survive your wounds because many of those wounds have already been faced, processed, understood, and integrated. And then eventually, at least for me, healing became seasonal, freelance. That stage feels completely different. Healing is no longer at the center of my identity at this point. I'm actually living now, exploring, creating, expanding, receiving, following my curiosity, building new realities. So when healing does call me back into something deeper, it's usually because my soul has reached another level of awareness slash tiredness and is genuinely ready to release a pattern for real this time. The next level of I don't give a fuck. I'm not seeking healing from a constant state of panic anymore. I seek it because something inside of me is consciously ready for another level. And honestly, that's exactly where I'm at with this receiving wound. My soul is tired, not in a hopeless way, not in a defeated way, just deeply fucking tired of robbing myself, tired of shrinking, tired of bracing, tired of preparing for loss before allowing myself to fully receive what's already trying to find me, tired of old storylines still trying to survive inside of a version of me that no longer believes in them. I think once you reach the seasonal stage of healing, you realize something really important. Every time you consciously choose to go back and heal another layer, it's because you've reached another level of I don't give a fuck. And I don't mean that in a reckless way. I mean, you finally had enough. Enough of abandoning yourself. Enough of betraying yourself. Enough of dimming yourself. Enough of replaying cycles your soul already understands. At that point, there's always some little piece inside of you asking to be reminded. Stop giving a fuck about things that no longer resonate with your soul. And that's exactly what this season feels like for me. I want to unlock the next level of myself internally. That's the mission. And even though expansion still comes with nerves, unfamiliarity, discomfort, and ego resistance sometimes, the excitement always outweighs the fear for me now. Because I genuinely love discovering new levels of myself. I really do. I want to unlock as many versions of myself as I possibly can, just because I can. Because I'm curious. Because I know I'm meant to experience life this way. Because I know consciousness is endless. Because I know there are still parts of me I haven't fully met yet. I think that's why I wake up more curious about myself than I am about almost anything else in this world. And not because I'm trying to constantly fix myself or because I'm obsessively picking myself apart, but because every version of me reveals something different. Some versions of me are softer, some are calmer, some are bolder, some are quieter, some are more direct, some are more cutthroat, some are more playful, some are more surrendered. And instead of forcing myself into one fixed identity forever, I've started allowing myself to evolve naturally, depending on what level my soul is currently moving through. So lately, whether I am journaling, cleansing my space, sitting with myself on rainy days, clearing the air, opening windows, intentionally breathing fresh air into my body, I just kept asking myself, what would it feel like to reach the next level of I don't give a fuck? Because for real, I'm ready. I'm so fucking ready. Not in a detached way, not in a numb way, not in a fuck everybody way, but in a liberated way. Because I know I'm on a different type of mission here. Yeah, I live in this world, but my spirit has never fully operated from the same priorities this world pushes onto people. My fulfillment is different. My desires are different. My relationship with life is different. And the more I continue healing this receiving wound, the more I realize that every new level of my life requires a different level of me to meet it. Different levels of trust, different levels of softness, different levels of discernment, different levels of courage, different levels of nervous system capacity. And I believe and know I'm finally ready for the next level. When my nervous system forgets it's safe to receive. Some days I wake up feeling deeply connected to myself and my life. Other days I wake up irritated by every fucking thing. The dishes feel loud. The kitchen feels loud. People feel loud. Even trying to decide what I want to eat feels exhausting. But the thing is, those feelings don't always stay. I can wake up drowning in my emotions and still find my way back to myself later that same day. That's why I don't look at these moments as something being off. It's more like I become overwhelmed by the intensity of what I'm feeling all at once. The best way I can describe it is feeling like I'm drowning in the largest pool of emotion and I can't catch my breath long enough before another emotion pulls me back under. Irritation, restlessness, disconnection, emotional congestion. Nothing soothing the restlessness. Nothing fully reaching me. And over time, I've realized those moments usually aren't about the fucking dishes, the noise, the people, or even the environment itself. Those moments tend to happen when I'm gripping my current reality too tightly instead of allowing myself to flow with where life is trying to stretch me next. Because the truth is, every version of my life is temporary. Every location, every season, every identity, every emotional state. And when I forget that, I start resisting what's right in front of me instead of moving with it. We choose to hold on to things and turn them into storylines, identities, entire emotional journeys, but we don't always have to if we don't want to. Some things are meant to move through us instead of becoming us. Because every level of my life has required a new level of receiving. Every reality shift, every quantum leap, every expansion, every version of me that I've had to grow into has demanded that my nervous system learn how to hold more ease, more openness, more love, more support, more uncertainty, more visibility, more trust. And even though my soul may already be ready for it, sometimes my body still throws these little fits. Sometimes my body still reacts to new levels of receiving like they're unfamiliar territory. Even when I know nothing is actually wrong, my nervous system is still learning that it's safe to exist this way. And that internal tension usually starts spilling outward before I even realize what's happening. My environment starts getting on my goddamn nerves. The mess feels louder. People feel heavier. I start wanting to escape my current surroundings, even though logically, I know nothing is actually that serious. Even small things start feeling emotionally loaded because I'm gripping too tightly instead of allowing myself to move with the temporary nature of where I currently am. That's when I know I need to lean more into the tools that help me become adaptable again. People think adaptability comes from detachment or not caring. But for me, it comes from understanding that everything is temporary. I know how to use what I need to use, do what I need to do, and move accordingly without becoming emotionally consumed by every momentary discomfort. But even with all the inner work I've done, my body still has moments where it resists the softness of simply receiving. So instead of bypassing what I was feeling, I decided to work with it. And the more I slow down, the more I realize that the elements and the timing of things really communicate with me. Patterns communicate with me. There are no mistaking the signs anymore. Because even with the blue moon approaching, my nervous system throwing these little fits, and me already feeling intuitively called to buy some candles weeks earlier without fully knowing why yet, everything eventually came online at the exact moment I needed it to. That's why I trust myself. Not because I always know what's happening in the moment, but because I've slowed down enough to start paying attention to how life speaks to me. I pay attention to the signs. I pay attention to the synchronicities. I pay attention to what keeps resurfacing emotionally, spiritually, physically, and energetically. And when I stop trying to force immediate answers, everything usually reveals itself in its own timing. That's what led me to my candle ritual. I had already bought the candles weeks before, but I didn't feel called to use them yet. I just kept them on my altar until the moment felt right. And that day, after feeling emotionally overstimulated and eternally congested, I knew it was time to get into my magic bag. Not to escape myself, not to force an outcome, not to magically make life perfect, but to soften my grip. There's something about my words, my intentions, my tears, my energy, the herbs, my petitions, and the way I work with the elements that helps me move energy through my body differently. Some people may walk into my space and think I'm just burning a candle, but I know I'm intentionally working with fire, smoke, emotion, prayer, and release. I know I'm creating space inside myself to receive more openly instead of tightening against life. And almost immediately after the ritual, I noticed that shift. Not just on the surface, but underneath the surface. I felt calmer, softer, more open. The emotional congestion started clearing out. My environment stopped feeling so heavy. And that's what made me realize the irritation was never really about the dishes, the noise, the people, or the temporary environment around me in the first place. It was deeper than that. It's always deeper than that for me. Softening my grip. Surface level things don't really work my nerves like that because they aren't my natural frequency. Usually, when I start feeling emotionally irritated by everything around me, it's because something deeper inside of me is asking for my attention. Something wants to be acknowledged, something wants to be softened, something wants to be received differently. And once I work through that, life always starts opening back up for me again. Everywhere I go, things somehow begin working out for me. Opportunities open, support appears, synchronicities increase, ease starts flowing back in. Sometimes life starts working out for me so well that my body almost doesn't know what to do with it at first. And not because I believe things can be too good to be true. I actually don't believe that at all. I think things can be as good and as true as we allow ourselves to receive them. But I am realizing that receiving has been one of my deepest wounds I've been healing in layers. Learning how to exist in ease without anticipating for loss. Learning how to receive support without waiting for it to disappear or be thrown back into my face. Learning how to trust good things without immediately preparing myself for the other shoe to drop. But deeper than all of that, I have been learning how to receive again without feeling like I need to perform for it, without needing to overexert myself, without needing to constantly prove my worth, earn my place, or exhaust myself just to feel deserving of support, love, softness, or stability because they are old healed wounds. No lie, this season has been hard for me in ways I'm still learning how to articulate because I am used to taking care of myself through doing, through producing, through surviving, through staying in motion, through being in my masculine energy all the time, through providing not only for myself, but for other people too. But although I am still taking care of myself, I'm doing it differently now through rest, through healing, through love, through joy, through play, through existing, through calming my nervous system enough to finally exhale. And in a lot of ways, I've been releasing levels of shame that I know I can never fully return to again. I know deep down that I would never fit back into the boxes I once forced myself to survive inside of. That shit is both terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Because deep down, I know this season is connected to everything: my purpose, my mission, my work, my truth, the role I'm carving out for myself in this lifetime. A role that a lot of people probably wouldn't fully understand because it doesn't always look productive from the outside. People hear me talk about being paid to exist and assume that means doing nothing. But honestly, this path requires some of the deepest work I've ever done in my life. It's a lot of fucking work. Sometimes it looks like there's no external output at all. But internally, everything is shifting. Energy is moving. Old shame is surfacing. Survival patterns are unraveling. Lineage wounds are being addressed. Rest is happening not only for me, but for parts of my bloodline that never truly got to rest. That is work too. People will physically work themselves into exhaustion before they energetically sit with themselves long enough to confront what's actually living underneath the surface. Because sitting with yourself requires honesty, it requires stillness, it requires feeling, it requires letting old identities die. And I think that's why this season has stretched me so deeply because I'm no longer learning how to survive. I'm learning how to receive. I'm learning how to exist without constantly proving that I deserve to exist. And maybe that's what these emotional fits have really been trying to show me all along. Not that life is against me, but that my nervous system is still learning how safe it is to fully receive the life I've been calling in, the currency of being. I get why people hear someone say they want to be paid to exist and immediately think it sounds unrealistic, irresponsible, lazy, delusional, or even selfish. I really do understand it because most people don't actually believe that who they naturally are is valuable enough on its own. Most people were conditioned to believe their worth only exists through performance, through suffering, through overworking, through proving, through constantly exhausting themselves for validation, survival, or acceptance. But me, I got so fucking fed up with living a life for everybody else, living a life that other people would clap for, while inside I was motherfucking dying. I got tired of betraying myself just to fit into systems, roles, expectations, and identities that were slowly draining the life out of me. So eventually I said, fuck this. Let it all burn. Let the old life collapse. Let the mask fall apart. Let me finally see what remains when I stop living for everybody else and start living for my fucking self. And damn, there are no words for what I've discovered within myself because of that decision. No fucking words. I'm finally learning how to live life my way, on my timing, on my terms. And one of the hardest parts of this entire journey has been trusting that I'm actually allowed to live like this. Sometimes that trust still gets challenged. But I have too much evidence now to let doubt fully consume me anymore. Too many moments where life called me. Too many moments where support appeared. Too many moments where things somehow worked themselves out once I stopped gripping so tightly and allowed myself to breathe. So now, when I feel myself spiraling, I pause. I fucking breathe. And then I ask myself, what can I control right now? What can I nurture right now? What can I appreciate right now? What is life trying to show me right now? Because I much rather go through a get it out the fucking mud journey that reveals me to myself than spend my entire life surviving in ways that only benefit everybody else while my soul quietly dies in the background. I know that's why inner work is so important. From the outside, it can look like everything is falling apart, like your life is collapsing, like you're lost, but sometimes that collapse is intentional. Sometimes your soul gets so fucking tired of performing that it starts tearing down every structure that no longer aligns with who you truly are. That's what happened to me. I willingly chose this shit. Not because it was easy, not because it was glamorous, but because I could no longer tolerate living disconnected from myself anymore. And I truly think people need to start asking themselves different questions. Not what looks successful, Not what will impress people, not what will make everybody else approve of me, but what actually makes me feel alive? What makes me feel free? What kind of life do I genuinely want to experience while I'm here? Because even when people say they want money, a mansion, luxury, freedom, or success, what they're really chasing underneath all of it is a feeling. How do you want to feel in your life? How do you want your nervous system to feel? How do you want your mornings to feel? How do you want your relationships to feel? How do you want to feel when you're alone with yourself? Those are the real questions if you ask me. And that's also why I've intentionally chosen the long path in this game of life. I don't want to rush through my evolution anymore. I want to hold every level. I want to appreciate every version of myself. I want to understand what each stage is teaching me before I sprint toward the next one. Because manifestation for me has never just been about visualizing things, it's about feeling them. I don't always fully see the future version of myself clearly. I can't always make out every detail of her face, her clothes, her environment, or her exact life, but I can feel her. I can feel her freedom. I can feel her softness. I can feel her peace. I can feel her abundance. I can feel her receiving. And once I hold that feeling long enough, it slowly starts becoming mine. That's how I attract what's mine. I focus on the feeling, the embodiment, the emotional reality of the life I desire. And the more I become that version of myself internally, the more life starts reorganizing itself externally to match it. So this current version of me, she's learning another layer of receiving support, receiving ease, receiving love, receiving freedom, receiving without guilt, receiving without over explaining myself, receiving without feeling like I constantly have to earn my right to exist. And honestly, it makes me feel like a fucking queen. Not in an ego way, not in a superiority way, but in a deeply nourished way. Like life actually wants to pour into me. Like the universe is abundant. Like I am supported. Like I am safe enough to soften. Like I no longer have to carry the entire world on my back just to survive. And yes, I know this way of living won't make sense to everybody. But I also know I needed to experience these extremes for myself. I needed to understand survival, fear, lack, trust, surrender, receiving, freedom, not theoretically, embodied. Because I truly believe part of my path is being able to resonate with people across many different levels of reality, precisely because I've lived through so many of them myself. The wound beneath receiving. And I just have to fucking say this too. One of the biggest wounds tied into receiving that has followed me across almost every level of my life has been the energy of envy. Destiny swapping. People being attracted to my light, my energy, my openness, my vision, my softness, my gifts. Not necessarily because they truly see me, but because they can feel what my energy could potentially do for them. At first, everything feels normal. Then certain little things start revealing themselves. The energy shifts, the looks shifts, the projections start slipping through the cracks, the masks start peeling, the envy starts surfacing, the control starts surfacing, the hidden resentment starts surfacing. But after sitting with those signs, I noticed I was still holding myself back. That's the deeper realization I've been having while unpacking all of this. It's not even really about the people anymore. It's about realizing how those experiences slowly shape the lens through which I was receiving life itself. Because when you repeatedly experience people projecting onto you, competing with you, resenting you, misunderstanding you, attaching themselves to your light while resisting their own healing, some part of your nervous system naturally starts becoming more guarded over time, even subconsciously. Not because you want to close yourself off, not because you stop loving people, not because you stop believing in connection, but because your body starts remembering pain before it remembers possibility. And I think that's exactly what I've been healing underneath all of this. Because while consciously, I've always desired openness, support, love, softness, freedom, reciprocity, and genuine soul aligned connection, there were still deeper layers of me that were carrying the emotional residue of what I had already experienced and survived. And my soul is motherfucking tired of carrying it. I'm done viewing life, connection, receiving, visibility, support, and expansion through the lens of wounds I've already outgrown. I'm done allowing old energy to unconsciously shape how much I let myself receive now. Because I can feel that I'm reaching a point where I'm finally ready to welcome receiving fully, openly, safely, freely, not from fear, not from survival, not from guarding myself against what already happened in the past, but from trust, from discernment, from embodiment, from knowing I no longer have to keep reliving the same cycle just because I once needed those lessons to evolve. I already got the lesson. I already alchemized the pain. I already survived the level. Now it's time for me to receive differently after all the work I've done. When I really sat with myself during this candle ritual, while burning and releasing and crying and reflecting and feeling everything resurfacing all over again, I finally had to ask myself, what the fuck is this really? What are you still holding on to? What are you still afraid of? Why do you still keep shrinking certain parts of yourself? And as more signs started surfacing involving old connections, old friendships, old cords I already knew I needed to cut, I realized something. I'm no longer available for relationships where people secretly resent the very light they're drawn to. I'm not doing that shit anymore. I don't even feel the need to over explain myself about it anymore either, because people know what they do. I'm not here to spend the rest of my life teaching people how to treat me. I outgrew that. Either the energy matches or it doesn't. Either you see me clearly or you don't. Either your spirit can meet mine honestly or it can't. And if it can't, I turn the fucking channel. Simple. And yeah, sometimes I'll stay a little longer if I genuinely feel called to, because I do have compassion. I do understand wounds. I do understand trauma. I do understand fear. But I also understand when cycles are no longer mine to carry. And as the candle continues burning down to the very end, I can literally feel how much has been surfacing and releasing at the same time. Healing, releasing, over and over again. And at some point during the process, I finally said, no, I'm fucking done with this. I've done enough work for this season. I've faced enough. I've carried enough. I've learned enough lessons from this specific pattern. Now let's throw every remaining layer into this fucking fire because I'm ready to move differently now. I deserve everything that truly has my name on it. Everything. That's exactly why the villain on the yellow brick road was so important for me to write. Because I finally accepted that some people are always going to misunderstand the person who chooses themselves unapologetically, especially when your existence alone challenges the way they've been surviving. But this goes deeper than that for me. I know in my soul that this specific wound is tied to my lineage too. Everybody in my family worked hard. Everybody survived through labor, overexertion, sacrifice, and carrying impossible weight. And that became their understanding of life. So many of my ancestors learned how to endure life, but not necessarily how to receive it. And I can see now how those unresolved wounds continue recycling themselves through projection, relationships, survival patterns, family dynamics, and the ways people related to themselves and one another. Which is why this receiving wound feels bigger than just me sometimes. Because I know I'm not only healing personal patterns, I'm breaking inherited ones too. I refuse to keep living that way. So now my spirit keeps asking me, what if there's another way? What if I remember another way? What if I create another way? I know that's the part people envy the most, not because they want my exact life, but because they see that I'm willing to risk everything to become myself fully. You can't study that. You can't copy that. You can't manipulate that into existence because I will reinvent myself every single time if I have to. I will start over every single time if I have to. I will burn everything down and rebuild from truth every single time if I have to. Every time I heal another layer of this receiving wound, it deepens the connection between my soul and my human experience. It strengthens my ability to trust life, to trust myself, to trust softness, to trust support, to trust that I don't have to abandon myself just to survive. I know most people won't fully understand or understand the way I move through life because I'm playing a completely different game. I prioritize internal work over external appearances. So externally, my reality could look confusing as fuck to somebody else, while internally, I know exactly what level I'm moving through spiritually, emotionally, energetically, mentally, and soulfully. But staying flexible is important for me because I know what expansion feels like in my body now. I know what my ego does before a breakthrough. I know what my fits look like before another level unlocks. I know what it feels like when I start becoming irritated by things that aren't actually aligned with my natural energy anymore. That's how I know something outdated is floating too close to my system again. Not evil, not necessarily an enemy, just foreign to who I'm becoming. And when I recognize that feeling, I know it's time to do the work to clear it out instead of pretending I don't see it. Because my soul is tired, not weak, not defeated, not hopeless, just tired of repeating cycles it already understands. And that's the thing most people miss. It will almost always look like a surface level problem at first. A job, a relationship, a location, money, conflict, irritation, restlessness. But underneath all of it, something deeper is usually asking to evolve. And that's exactly why I refuse to place myself into boxes that disconnect me from myself. I refuse to keep forcing myself into jobs that drain my spirit, positions built on false power, lives that look stable externally while internally I feel disconnected from my own soul. Because all the real power I've ever been searching for has always existed within me. So now I make myself my career. I make my life my stage. And I make my journey my legacy. And in doing that, I've created a completely different relationship with life itself. I genuinely believe life responds to me, takes care of me, pours back into me. Not because I think I'm more special than anybody else, but because I'm finally learning how to prioritize myself honestly and intentionally instead of constantly abandoning myself for systems, expectations, survival patterns, and external validation. I'm using my natural born gifts, my newly discovered gifts, even the gifts that haven't fully arrived yet. And I'm allowing all of it to exist in service to a life that actually nourishes me instead of drains me. But the beautiful part is that the same energy that transformed my life also has the power to touch, inspire, activate, heal, or resonate with other people too, if their hearts are open enough to receive it and believe in it for themselves. And shit, that's what I think the real barter system originally was: energy exchange, gift exchange, soul exchange. Humans pouring into one another through unique abilities, passions, creations, wisdom, care, presence, and offerings. Because if I'm being real, I ask deeper questions about everything now, even money. Money itself isn't inherently evil to me, but I do question the origins of systems constantly because I view life differently now. I look at life like a game. So naturally, my mind starts asking, why was this system created in the first place? Who benefited from creating it? Why do some people have endless access while others struggle to survive? What emotions were tied into the creation of these systems to begin with? Because most systems rooted in imbalance usually originate from some form of fear, control, greed, scarcity, power, or separation consciousness somewhere along the line. And while, yes, generations before us have normalized these systems, I still allow myself to question them anyway. because questioning things is part of how I remember myself. So, no, I'm not interested in playing this game through greed, exploitation, overexertion, or harming other people just to win. That's not my frequency. I'm going to play this system in the way that allows me to win without abandoning my soul, without stepping on people, without manipulating people, without becoming hardened by survival, without believing there isn't enough abundance for everybody. Because I truly believe there is enough. Enough love, enough abundance, enough creativity, enough support, enough freedom, enough opportunity, enough magic. And I believe a huge part of accessing that abundance starts with fully allowing yourself to become who you already are instead of constantly trying to become what the world told you to be. By simply being my unique self, I become the frequency that creates the reality I desire. And I think this is also why the receiving wound has stretched me so deeply. Because it is not easy holding visions that only you fully can see. It's not easy feeling realities internally before they fully materialize externally. It's not easy trusting what your soul feels when your physical reality is still catching up to it. It's not easy walking towards something that doesn't fully exist yet, except inside your imagination, your nervous system, your spirit, and your heart. But then again, I think that's exactly how this whole simulation was designed. We are all individual pieces of consciousness, experiencing reality through our own unique lens. Even when people resonate with us, love us, support us, or understand parts of our journey, nobody can fully see our vision the exact way we see it because the creator code connected to it belongs to us. That blueprint is personal. People can resonate with the frequency of what you're building. They can benefit from it, be inspired by it, feel activated by it. But the original vision, the original feeling, the original energetic blueprint, that belongs to the soul that received it. When I surrendered everything that once made me look successful externally just to start over from a completely fresh slate, I had no fucking clue what was going to happen next. Every new chapter became a blank canvas. Every new version of me became a new reality. Every phase became another level of trust. And after a while, even parts of where I came from started becoming blurry too. Not because I forgot myself, but because I was becoming someone I almost didn't remember. And going from survival, limitation, fear, and lack into endless possibility is not some overnight shift like people sometimes assume when they look at somebody's transformation from the outside. This reality has been meticulously built, co created by me and my spirit team, built through breakdowns, built through surrender, built through nervous system rewiring, built through healing, built through risk, built through grief, built through trust, built through choosing myself over and over and over again. And honestly, it's the wealthiest thing I have to my name. Not money, not status, not external validation, a blueprint, a direct connection to energy, imagination, creation, intuition, and consciousness that transcends logic while still deeply shaping my human experience. And sometimes I just sit back and laugh because even people with strong religious beliefs can fully believe in a God creating worlds, creating heaven, creating earth, creating reality itself, but they struggle to believe that they themselves are capable of consciously creating a different experience for their own life. That is so interesting to me because I'm not saying I'm God. I'm not saying I control every single thing. I'm saying I believe in consciousness, imagination, feeling, intention, energy, and embodiment are all deeply connected to the realities we experience. And once I truly understood that, I could no longer force myself to live disconnected from my own vision anymore, even when it scared me, even when it looked irrational, even when nobody else fully understood what I was building yet. Because internally, I could already feel it coming together. That feeling became stronger than my fear. That's why I stopped looking at life like something I'm supposed to survive and started treating it like a game I'm meant to fully experience. This is a game to me. And I'm going to play this fucking game to the fullest extent of my soul. My legacy thread. When my soul gets tired of a specific cycle, a specific wound, a specific pattern, that's usually how I know it's finally time for me to heal that soul theme for good. Because eventually, I just get sick of it. Not in a surface level way, not in a temporary emotional way. I mean, soul tired. The kind of tired where your spirit can no longer comfortably participate in the cycle anymore because you've already extracted every lesson you needed from it. The awareness is there, the discernment is there, the pattern is visible. And at some point, continuing to entertain it starts feeling heavier than releasing it. That's usually the moment I know I'm done. Not because I hate anybody, not because I'm angry forever, not because I suddenly stop understanding human complexity, but because my soul is ready to move differently now. And when I reach that point, I stop negotiating with the lesson. I set myself free from it. I call all of my power back, my energy back, my focus back, my softness back, my peace back, but I always leave the love. And that's also why I say all the time that perspective is everything. Because my perspective on all of this is understanding that I needed to face this part of myself. I needed to see the parts of me that were still unconsciously operating from outdated storylines, outdated wounds, outdated fears, outdated versions of reality that no longer align with who I truly am anymore. That's the real work for me. Recognizing there's still a part of me that needed to see this. There's still a part of me that needed to upgrade. There's still a part of my nervous system that hasn't fully caught up to what my soul already knows is possible. Because if I've already done the hardest part, which was removing access, cutting cords, releasing energy, walking away from spaces and dynamics that no longer resonate with me. Then the next step is obvious: upgrade the system, upgrade my perspective, upgrade my emotional baseline, upgrade my ability to receive, upgrade my discernment, upgrade my relationship with myself so I can finally beat this level in the game of life. That's why this has become less about them and so much more about the stepping stones I'm leaving behind for myself, my lineage, and for the people who are meant to resonate with my path. We all have different roles, different soul themes, different contracts, different things we came here to move through and alchemize. And this is one of mine. A whisper for you. Maybe the next level of receiving doesn't arrive through force. Maybe it arrives through exhaustion, the kind of exhaustion that comes from realizing you've already outgrown certain ways of surviving, certain ways of thinking, certain ways of carrying life. But your body is still catching up to what your soul already knows. Because eventually, something in you gets tired of gripping so tightly, tired of over explaining yourself, tired of over preparing for disappointment, tired of carrying realities that no longer fit, tired of dimming yourself to stay emotionally comfortable inside old environments, old patterns, old identities, or old fears. And I think that's where deeper receiving begins. Not when life suddenly becomes perfect, not when fear completely disappears, not when you finally earn softness, but when your soul finally reaches a point where it no longer wants to keep abandoning itself just to survive familiar realities. Maybe that's why expansion can feel both exciting and uncomfortable at the same time, because every level adds something different from us: a different level of trust, a different level of openness, a different level of self responsibility, a different level of nervous system capacity. And maybe the real flex isn't how much pain we can endure. Maybe it's how much life, support, love, freedom, joy, and truth we can finally allow ourselves to hold. Here are your journal prompts for this week's entry. Please answer them honestly. Number one: what patterns, cycles, or emotional realities has my soul become deeply tired of carrying? Number two: in what ways have I subconsciously tied receiving to overworking, proving, performing, or survival? Number three: what would my life look and feel like if I truly believed it was safe for me to receive support, softness, love, abundance, and ease? Number four: what outdated identities, environments, relationships, or beliefs feel foreign to the version of me I'm becoming now? Number five: if I stopped living according to external expectations and started building my life around my soul, what would naturally begin unfolding for me? Thank you for witnessing this soul stream. Return to it whenever you need to come home to yourself. Until next time, stay soft, stay true, and keep streaming your soul your way. Love, Sim.